me get a couple in me first, and then we can start doing this show. Yeah, so this is like a holiday cider, so I love it.
I don't like hard cider.
No.
No.
I didn't used to, and then I do.
Is
I don't
it
know what
apple
happens.
cider?
It's apple cider, yeah.
Really?
But you get different flavors through the seasons and everything. So when the fall rolls around they do the fall flavors, and if it's in the summertime, then they do like watermelon cider, which is also great. Pineapple cider, but this is like
watermelon sounds good.
oh, they're all good.
I'd almost be willing to try an apple cider.
Yeah?
Because I like cold apple.
I only took a couple swigs out of this one. You want to try
That's
it?
a negative.
Oh, all right.
I've been coughing, he tells me.
I don't understand. We kiss all the time, and now you don't.
We do that. Never.
Not all the time.
Your wife's in the other room.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, top secret. Oh, you cozy over there? Everything's great?
Yep.
All right, so you want to talk right into this microphone all the time, okay, so I can hear you, okay? So lean a little closer. Can you lean closer?
Or bring
pull
it to
closer?
you. Yeah, bring it to you. My bad, I didn't.
Is that okay?
Oh, now you sound
Is that
beautiful.
good?
There
Yeah.
she is.
Yeah, I can hear you
Right.
just great.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing.
Yeah. So I'll do my little cheesy open here, and we'll just start talking. Like some of this stuff is probably already going to make the podcast, so just so you're aware.
Okay.
All
well,
right.
just to let you know, I'm not used to having everything focused on me.
Oh, then you're on the wrong show.
I know. I mean, I agreed to do it
This
Put me
episode,
on.
yeah, this episode is going to be a lot of you talking. Actually, I think.
I know that's what you warned me.
Yeah, compared to us talking on this one, I'm going to actually try because maybe the listeners can tell I'm a little bit congested compared to normal. I'm not normally this manly sounding. I don't think so.
No.
no. Jeez, he jumped on that quickly. Okay, yeah. Hey, you're listening to Stage Door Theater Podcast. For Northwest Ohio, Southeast Michigan, and we have a special guest today. She actually, I got a hold of her, I think. I reached out to you and said, wait a minute, what is this thing you're doing down in Bowling Green? Because you have a show. You have a show through Bowling Green State University? Is that what it is? No.
No.
All right.
Not
Already screwed it up.
Not currently doing a show. I'm not sure what show you're talking about.
You are a DJ. You are a host of a radio show, correct?
Oh, that I am. Still
There
doing.
we go.
That's
Yes.
ongoing. Yes.
Yes. And that is what?
I volunteer at WBGU
Aha.
88.1
The river.
Community Radio.
Oh, no.
where
Community
I
radio.
do, a folk hour Wednesday at 1:00 every week, and I play. Most of it is folk music from the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, and
And then I was also doing a Friday night radio program on Broadway
that's
musicals.
the one.
Yeah,
that's
I
the
think
one.
that's how you found
That's the
me.
one because you posted on Toledo Area Theater Exchange that
But
you did
I'm
this
not
show.
doing that one right now because it kept getting preempted by BGSU sports events.
Yeah, Friday night you said.
So I quit, but I think after the holidays I'm going to start it up again. Only this time I'm going to do it on Monday nights because that's when most theaters are dark
Gotcha.
and all the theater people might be able to listen.
There you go.
Makes
Plus,
sense.
you're not going to get the Monday Night Football audience though.
And there's no games on Monday
Yeah,
night, right?
yeah. It's okay.
that
The
I
people
know.
who listen to Monday Night Football aren't going to be listening to the musical theater podcast. That's what our radio show. That's what I look at. Yeah. So you posted something on Toledo Area Theater Exchange, and I was like, whoa, what is this? What is going on here? So I reached out to you, and then I talked to you for not very long, and then you actually came back at me and said, actually, that's fine and dandy, but I do this really, really cool thing that I think you'd be more interested in, and that. And then you told me about it, and I said, yeah, you are right. This is more interesting. So what is it that you are the queen of?
Well, I don't know about the queen of, but the reason I agreed to do this show for you, to be interviewed, as I said before we started recording, is I'm not used to everything being so focused on me. So I agreed to do it because my career, my background has been in theater of the deaf, DEAF, and interpreting in sign language theater and consulting with theaters on audience accessibility with deaf audiences.
And see, the first time I even heard about this was Cutting Edge Theater in town was doing a show, and they incorporated American Sign ASL.
Yeah,
American
there
Sign
was
Language into their
I
show.
just finished a show that Ashley Hill,
Oh,
who is a choreographer.
Ashley Hill comes up on this show so many times. She's
really?
she's part of the Human Experience Dance, and she
Yeah.
also worked at WTOL years ago.
Well,
So it's
she
like,
did-
what the world?
Yeah, she did a show, mostly dance.
Yeah.
But she sent out some kind of a poster flyer. I can't remember how I responded for auditions, and I thought, well, I wonder if she would be interested. I didn't know. I mean, I can't dance anymore. I used to years and years ago,
Gotcha.
but anyway, I showed up at auditions. She found out I had an American Sign Language background, and she was so excited. And so basically, we worked on. She helped me develop a character in her show that didn't know how to talk or didn't talk, but I used sign language, and I interpreted several of her live vocalists in the show.
Very cool. So now let's go back now, because this doesn't just happen. You don't just all of a sudden say, I'm going to start doing this, right? Or is that what happened? Was it years and years ago where you were like, let's go back, I guess, to where you started and how you discovered this is something that you had a passion for?
Well, that's kind of a long story.
That's okay. We got time.
And that is a long time ago.
Okay, let's just get it out there. She's like
Okay.
37. Just deal with it, young
really
people.
Old. And basically what happened is I graduated from BGSU with a theater and speech education degree.
Okay, cool.
Started my job teaching children's theater in Dayton, Ohio. Mm-hmm. One of the community members in Dayton came up to me and asked if I would help him do a show with his deaf students. His day job was a teacher of the deaf. And I had never met a deaf person. I didn't know anything about sign language. And I'm like, okay, sure.
That's very cool. He just randomly came up to you and said, hey,
he
I
just
got
wanted
this
some
opportunity.
help doing some kind of a program with his students. And when I saw the language, because when I was a theater major at BGSU, I specialized in dance, pantomime, nonverbal communication.
Oh, very cool.
So when I saw sign language, I was like, oh, how pretty.
Yeah.
Never knowing how much more it is.
Oh,
It's a
well,
whole nother language.
It-
I mean, it's the
a
same
whole
language, but it's a
yep,
whole way of
and a whole culture.
Right.
And
see, I don't know any of this stuff.
But that's how I got into it, and I fell in love with the language. And so then I decided that I wanted to. I tell people this is kind of funny. I was like, oh, this is great. I want to do theater using sign language.
Yeah.
Well, at that time, it was actually kind of becoming a big thing. There were lots of grants, arts grants, going out to theater programs that were doing that. And so I started a community theater of the deaf in Dayton, Ohio,
Wow.
timeline about the 80s.
with deaf
maybe?
people using sign language.
Yeah.
About
what
when?
date was that?
Oh, when?
Was this the 80s, the 90s, the 70s?
1980s,
You don't have to give me an exact year.
80s somewhere.
80-ish? Okay.
He's just
Yeah.
trying to expose your age. He's terrible.
No.
Was this the 40s,
She
the
could have been
20s? Was
4 when she did it.
Oh,
No,
that's true. That's true. So do you remember what the show was? Any idea what the first show
no,
was?
well,
that
I
you
did a variety of things.
No, the first one when the guy came up to you and said,
I don't remember that at all.
okay, because that one was really thrown on you, so you really probably had to.
I think it might have
make some
been like some
adjustment.
kind of a holiday thing,
Oh, okay.
but I'm not sure. But
So then you started your own group
So then
in
I
Dayton.
started a community theater of the deaf. Found
Wow.
some deaf people who were interested in acting. We did a circus, pantomime circus program. There was a deaf couple that the deaf community knew them of doing pantomime, and I met them and taught them the more professional, official pantomime approaches. And then there was a deaf woman who I directed in doing a couple of, and there was a man too. Anyway, I did a couple of Chekhov things translated in American Sign Language.
Chekhov.
Anton Chekhov
Anton
plays,
Chekhov, right,
like
yeah.
The Harmfulness of Tobacco.
Thank you. Okay.
And then
I'm a
the
Trekkie,
bear.
so sorry. I don't know
Wrong
anything.
Chekhov,
Yeah, I know.
wrong
That's the
Chekhov.
only thing with me. I'm like,
That's
I
okay.
should probably know who Chekhov is.
That's probably what he's named after. But
I assume
He's
probably.
he's a classic Russian.
Well, then
playwright.
absolutely he was named.
Playwright.
The character in Star Trek was named after him. Then.
And then I decided that I really loved this, and I went and got trained by the National Theater of the Deaf summer school.
Oh.
Again, at that time, they were pretty big and pretty well known by hearing audiences. They were touring all over, and most of their audiences were hearing audiences. And they did some really high-class classical performances with deaf actors.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. So the theater. Well, I'm sorry. Where was it? What was it called again?
National Theater of the Deaf.
So the National Theater of the Deaf was performing for hearing audiences.
Mostly
Mostly
yeah,
hearing
yeah.
audiences. Gotcha. Okay, cool. And was this dance? Was this theater?
No, theater.
Theater. Sorry.
They did a variety of different things, and I went to their summer school program where they trained people on how to do Theater of the Deaf, and then.
And are these mostly plays then, or
Yeah.
okay? I'm just trying to figure stuff out here.
Yep. No,
Okay.
they do performances just like any other theater does. The only thing is that they have to spend time in rehearsals to translate the English script into American Sign Language. So for the signing and deaf actors, so it takes a little bit longer.
So they're doing both on stage at the same time.
It is bilingual, yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I was going to say, because if you're
I
doing it
forgot
for
to
a hearing
mention that.
audience,
Yes.
they still have to understand what's going on.
It's
Gotcha.
a cast of hearing and deaf actors.
Oh.
And they present in both languages.
But both of them have to know both sides.
It's helpful.
The hearing people,
Yeah, the hearing actors don't
need to
always
sign
have
also.
to, but it's helpful.
Do they put someone on the side to help out with the sign language in case an actor is
No,
not-
they rehearse it.
They rehearse it
just-
all. They just
Yeah.
But I mean, how about for the audience then, though, too? So if the non-deaf actor is doing his line but not doing the sign language with it, is there somebody else then that will do the sign?
Yeah,
with them?
there's
Okay.
usually two. Yeah, I mean, there, like I say, there's a cast of hearing and a cast of deaf actors. So when the deaf actors are signing, one of the hearing actors, is voicing for the deaf actor.
See, I'm starting to catch up here, so that's
so
good.
would it be in a sense? Obviously, we don't have a clue of what's going on here. But if the person is speaking in sign language, the deaf person, and the other actor is in the cast, are they just like repeating what that person is saying, so that then those people
Well,
can?
it's simultaneous. It's not necessarily repeating. So like if I'm standing here and I'm signing to you right now, you would be voicing for me as I'm signing.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Cool.
It's kind of like interpreting, only the reverse.
Gotcha.
You know, hearing interpreters will sign language interpret what they hear, but in deaf theater, you're kind of doing the opposite.
They already know what the lines are, so they can just go ahead and
Right.
run through it all at the same time.
Right.
This is very cool. This
It's
is
really intriguing.
yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so you went back, you did your language school.
So at that point, I figured out that, finding a career to support yourself in theater, as you know probably,
Right.
is challenging enough as it is. Then I wanted to narrow it down even more to Theater of the Deaf. And I'm hearing wanting to. So I was like, what was I thinking? So I decided that I loved ASL, American Sign Language, more than theater. And I went to the interpreter training program and got certified as a national certification professional sign language interpreter. And then I went, at the same time, I got my master's degree in teaching deaf children.
Nice.
So I proceeded to kind of leave theater and ended up teaching and interpreting. But I kept my foot in theater by specializing in interpreting theater.
And how long have you been doing that then?
Well, I don't, unfortunately, in Northwest Ohio, it's kind of dry, so to speak. So I'm not doing much of it at all anymore. I've retired back to my hometown, but that's
hometown of Bowling Green, right?
Yeah, Bowling Green.
Bowling Green. Let's clarify. You didn't, not Dayton, so you're from Bowling Green.
No, yeah.
Went to Bowling Green State
Right.
University, got your degree there. Moved to Dayton for work. Have moved back to
Right.
Bowling Green now. So
And my career took me, I mean, it's a 30 plus 35-year career of teaching and interpreting, and it took me to a variety of different states, mostly on the East Coast, upstate New York. My last gig was in New Mexico,
Oh, really?
Albuquerque, where I established an interesting program they have a day school there for deaf children, and they were getting to the point where they were going to elementary school, and they were going to graduate and go to high school, but they didn't have anywhere to go. And so they wanted to collaborate with a charter school there, the Amy Beale High School, and they hired me to work with Amy Beale High School in establishing a program of a mainstream program with the deaf students that were going to go over from the elementary
Is there a
school.
deaf school around here? And I'm just unaware.
Not around here.
Okay.
It's in Columbus, Ohio.
Okay,
There's
so
a state
it's the closest
school.
Columbus is the closest one. So is there a interest, a draw, or anything for deaf theater in Northwest Ohio? Because we have so much theater here. Is there a call for it at all?
Basically, it could
It's a good
be.
thing this is not TV, right? Unfortunately, there is a deaf community in Toledo, Ohio, but it's a very small one, and it's not highly organized or cohesive. So there's not a call for it. It would take a lot of PR and marketing and audience development and stuff like that for Northwest Ohio. Now, Columbus is a whole different story. Because of the School for the Deaf down there, and it's a big city, they have interpretive performances all the time down there.
Well, I know it was kind of a big deal for Stephanie to do it. She really wanted to do it. So that's why I was wondering, were there, a decent amount of people in the audience that needed that, wanted that?
Stephanie
Dennehy with Cutting Edge Theater. She did ASL.
I heard about
yeah,
that.
I mean-
I wasn't here at the time,
Yeah,
but I heard
it was.
about
I think
that.
it was a few years back, exactly. So she had made sure that this was part of the show. I think it may have been Spring Awakening actually that she did it through.
But that just had an interpreter along with the show, didn't it?
No, I don't think she
They
did
were doing-
that.
they were doing
I
the
didn't
sign
see.
language
I
in
didn't
the
see
show?
that particular one that she had the
I
American
thought she
Sign Language
did
in.
Children of a Lesser God.
Maybe I don't remember what it was, but
Yeah,
they
I
were
don't
part
know.
of the show though. They were right alongside, like right next to him, being very. They were actors. They weren't just somebody off to the side interpreting. They were actors in the show. So I was wondering if that was the case. Maybe she saw something like an untapped area. Like, hey, this is needed. We need to put this out there. So
I'm guessing that any actor that you talk to, or even a dancer, any artist, performing artist, is going to recognize that American Sign Language has the potential to be a beautiful and wonderful art form.
I think that's what Stephanie saw
And
too.
I'm
as well.
guessing that that's what she saw. That's what I see. The deaf community traditionally doesn't see it as an art form, and they see it more as accessibility to other art forms, meaning that they to them it's just a language.
It's a tool. It's a utility to
Right.
to
It's
to
their
get all
way
the
of
rest it,
being
yeah.
able to communicate.
Right.
And they don't recognize, that it can be an art form as well.
Can you give me some of the shows that you did this with? I mean, you mentioned Children of a Lesser God, but that actually has a deaf person as one of the main characters in it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming
look
you
at
didn't
talent.
have deaf characters in the shows that you were
that I just did with Ashley?
Well, anywhere, even in the past.
No, in the past I did, depending on where I was. But in Northwest Ohio, no.
But I mean, with all your shows that you did, I think Tom's was asking, is there a show that you did where there was no deaf character in the show?
No, there
it was
probably was.
Because
my job took me to where there's a deaf school or a larger deaf community or somewhere where the theater in that community was big enough, and accessible to the deaf community.
The character, though, the character in the show was a deaf written as a deaf character.
Sometimes
that's what Tom's.
It depends on the show. Depends on the theater.
Because that was Children of a Lesser God. One of the characters is deaf.
Yes, it's actually she won an Academy Award for it, and I'm going to forget her name now.
Wow.
I'm glad you know that.
From the 90s.
I am starstruck over here at Tom knowing this. I'm like, whoa.
Well, I will.
Famous actress too. I mean, she was just in a movie a couple years ago.
Well, that's the movie, but
right.
I will, and she's okay. She's good.
Marlee Matlin.
Marlee Matlin. But what I would like to say is that before the movie on Broadway, Phyllis Fralick was a deaf actor who won a Tony Award for her role in the same play, but it was a play on Broadway, not a movie.
Very nice.
Any goals? Any goals on like do we need to get more of this out there in Northwest Ohio? Would you like to see more of this out there?
Well, the only goal I have is to expose the theater community to the potential of American Sign Language being incorporated into theater programs. However, that and Ashley's show was a perfect example of how that could happen.
I wonder if she has a recording. I should reach out to her and see if she has a recording.
I asked her if she did, and she said she wanted to, but I don't think it was.
I'll ask her. I'll ask her again and be like, hey, remember me? No? Well, I remember you. No, I better not do that. It sounds creepy.
That program was called 4/4.
Yeah.
No, I saw some other things in your resume. And you
Say
mentioned
that
some.
again?
I saw some other things that were in your resume that you sent us, and you mentioned doing stuff with musical groups, like the Temptations, and explain some of that. That was just interpreting.
Yeah.
To an audience.
Well, interpreting. That's how I kept being active in theater. When I decided that I couldn't make a career and support myself doing deaf theater, that's when I started teaching and interpreting. But I kept doing theater because I was interpreting, like at the New York State Fair, I interpreted the Temptations, which I have a good story about that. And I interpreted theater productions like Les Mis and West Side Story.
Man.
Would you at least like to see some more of that? Just more interpretations, if anything?
I would love to see that, but here's the dilemma. You can't professional interpreters can't volunteer to interpret a major show like these shows.
Right.
Okay, and most of these shows would take more than one interpreter.
Right, Les Mis, everybody's singing all on top of each other.
You're going to have to have at least two. I did a show one time at the Cleveland Playhouse, Noises Off. I don't know if you know that show, but it's got so many people and it's so fast-paced. We had 5 interpreters.
Yeah, I think Oregon Community Theater's just doing that show, I believe.
So all of those interpreters cost money.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And most of the theaters don't budget that,
right,
and don't have the money for that, and so
that's unfortunate. It's a reality. It's a reality barrier. You can't do everything, and hopefully, we can do a little more.
I could still see small love letters. It's 2 people, and it would be so nicely done with interpretation.
Mm-hmm. That would work perfectly.
I know. There's plenty out there like that. Then that's to me that's where it should start. It's still. I volunteer for little things like this thing I did with Ashley. I volunteered to do that because I wanted to, and all I did, I had to go in,
and I interpreted, I think it was 3 songs, and then most of the time I was kind of a person sitting on the bench waiting at the bus stop.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to do that much, and so I was more than happy to volunteer to do it just because it was a way for me to express my creativity and my artistic. I can't sing. I mean, I do my best singing with my hands.
Yeah, that's okay. We can't act. That's why we do this.
Well, that's
But I
community
would
theater,
never
though.
interpret an entire, Les Miserables or West Side Story or anything without being professionally paid.
Yeah, that's the thing, though. It's community
Or
theater. You're
even
not
love
going to do
letters.
that. Yeah. Yeah, community theater is all volunteer, though. Everybody volunteers. They all show up. They all put in their time. Nobody's getting paid, really, to put on community theater. So in order to incorporate American Sign Language into one of these shows, you're going to have somebody else who has a desire, I guess, to want to do that. Just like all the people want to be in the shows, direct the shows, produce the shows, they're all volunteers. Costume the shows,
Right.
nobody's getting paid.
Right.
So we would need somebody else, if we're going to put this into community theater, that is also willing to put the time in, unfortunately. Because, as you already said, budget constraints on all these things. They barely even have enough money to put the show on. And they hope they break
Right.
even. So if they have to pay somebody, eek.
And down in Columbus, I'm trying to think other places where I would work with the theaters, and they would, if there was a deaf community, if there was a large enough deaf community, that's where we would spend the time and the money on educating the deaf community and making the theater productions accessible.
Well,
And the theaters would budget
yeah.
that into their for the interpreting.
And then maybe they only do one show. They could even do that. Even do one show that has the interpretation, and they wouldn't maybe pay as much.
Well, yeah, they didn't interpret all the shows.
Yeah.
Like, if it's 2 weekends, they would pick 1 or maybe 2 of the shows to interpret.
There you go. Well, I mean, I thought it was a very fascinating thing that you do.
It is.
I don't know if it's something we'll ever be able to have, though, locally. If it's, unless there's somebody who is a performer who is hearing impaired or deaf that would want to do it. And that's probably it, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I don't know of anybody, but then
Somebody can move from Columbus up here.
But that's the other thing. Is like if you can incorporate, politically, it's the deaf community can become offended at hearing people wanting to use their language, and I understand that. But I've gotten to the point at my age where it's like I just love the language so much, and it's such an artistic expression for me that I just decided that I'm going to do it. And if the deaf come and see it, great. If they don't, it doesn't matter because I can, express myself in the language. I don't know.
No, that was good.
Is it kind of like the French don't want you to speak French in France? They want you to speak the English? Is that kind of what
unless you're really, that's a good point. Unless you're really fluent.
Right.
And you respect and honor the culture and the community that has that language, then it can be offensive.
Huh.
It upsets me that people
makes
wouldn't
sense.
be respectful of it, though. I don't know. I just assume everybody would be. Maybe I'm just naive.
Well, that's true, but no, it is a beautiful language. My sister actually does American Sign Language and actually tutored a couple students for a number of years.
Oh.
I've seen it, and I've seen, and when you'd go home, she would always be, signing along with, speaking, and though nobody else in the room knew, we knew what she was saying because she was talking while she was doing it, but she had to keep up the practice. She had to keep doing it.
It's like any language.
Right.
You gotta use it. Or
I kind of half expected you to be doing it the whole time, too. So
we saw glimpses. We did see glimpses.
It's speaking and signing at the same time is frowned upon because you can't speak English and do ASL at the same time, because ASL has a totally different grammatical structure to English. So if I'm signing and talking at the same time, then I'm signing, but I'm not really using ASL.
Well, we just got to
And the
see it here,
microphone.
Tom and I.
You're
That
just
was
interpreting the words
That really
that you're
was
saying.
pretty, though.
Right.
You just did.
Okay.
And the microphone is in my way.
Darn microphone. We'll take it. That little bit was great. I love seeing that. It's a shame this isn't a video podcast. Other people could have seen how smooth and fluid you were, and I agree that it is pretty to just see what's going on there.
I do want to hear the story about the Temptations.
Oh, the story. So the New York State Fair, and I was chosen to do the Temptations because I know the songs that well and love them. And thank goodness I knew the songs, because I'm on stage with them. They're all over here, and I'm
Already
over on the
cool.
right. But the monitors are in front of me, facing out to the audience. You know this because you're
Right,
know
so you couldn't
audio.
hear anything.
And I could not hear any of their words. And I couldn't hear them, obviously, on stage because of all the, band and everything. So I was great. This is back before they had, like monitors where you put in your ears and
right.
stuff. They didn't do that back then. But thank goodness I knew the songs, so I could,
That's impressive, really.
I could sign it because I knew the lyrics. You
really were a fan, because I
was a fan.
I like
I
lots
am
of
a
songs,
fan.
but I don't think there'd be a lot of murmuring for me if you had to, because I don't know all the words.
Well, there were
to
some
the
parts
songs.
where it's like, I would have to sign. It's like, I don't know, can't hear. And then there's another funny story about Garth Brooks. I also interpreted for Garth Brooks. And they put us so far off to the side of the stage that we were not lit.
Oh, geez.
And we're a visual language.
Oh, my goodness.
So my team interpreter had a flashlight.
Oh, come on.
Flashing it up at me while I was signing, and then when it was her turn, I would get down and we would. I mean, this is back in the days before, nowadays they wouldn't do things like that. We've got,
this is like 88,
and
1988 probably, when Garth Brooks was huge, and and he just said, "I want all the light on me."
That's
well,
funny.
he was like,
Yeah.
a mile away. It was just ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, that's a shame. So the person you're doing the interpretation off to the side, they can't watch both the show and you at the same time.
That's
That's
the thing.
silly.
Yeah, that is
Exactly,
part of the problem,
because that's the old traditional way is you put the interpreter on the side of the stage, usually down on the floor. You got the stage up here with all the actors,
gosh.
and the deaf audience is going, ping-ponging back and forth,
Well,
trying to.
Oh, that was me at
So-
the opera this year.
Pardon?
That was me at the opera this year. I was low in the seats, and it was in Italian.
The
I
opera.
don't understand Italian, but they had the English subtitles
Right,
way up there,
right.
so everyone's doing this up and down and
Yeah.
up and down. Trying to watch the show, read it real quick and look down.
Yep.
So it's a little bit of a.
I'm a
similarity.
slow
that's
reader, so that wouldn't have worked out for me at all.
But that's the beauty of sign language is that, and this is what I tried to tell the theaters that I worked with, is that you can incorporate the language into the performance so that the signer is on the stage with the actors.
Fantastic.
And sometimes National Theater of the Deaf would do things like, I remember they did, I think it was called Four Poster. It's a comedy with a married couple and a big bed. But they would have portrait pictures on the wall, and they would have the signer or the voicers in the pictures. Am I making myself clear?
Yeah.
So they would voice all the signing with the
they're like
deaf
Harry Potter
actors.
ghosts in the frames.
Oh, okay.
They're like Harry
Okay,
Potter ghosts in
okay.
the frames
Okay.
talking the whole time.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
So that was a way of incorporating, making it a bilingual show, but incorporating both languages as part of the show so that it wasn't really an interpreted show. It was a bilingual show.
Very cool.
By the way, I don't want to upset the Toledo Opera because I still needed those.
I did
the English,
that. Yeah.
You know,
And you still love it.
Yeah, it was wonderful. Yeah. So don't. Yeah. don't stop putting the translation up there.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed this.
Cool. Thank you for coming in.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you for asking me.
Finish your beer.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. We're all adults here.
This is where we have to cut.
basically, I guess the only thing I wanted to say is that I may have said this already, that I retired back to my hometown
Yep.
in Bowling Green.
Yep.
And I've really enjoyed doing community theater and doing the radio and doing. I've done a couple of things with the rep. I just finished this project that you might be thinking about with Cocoon in Bowling Green, an agency that helps domestic violence and abused members. We did a one-act play about that. And I've really enjoyed getting my hands into all the different theater options now that I'm not working full time.
There you go.
It's
Exactly.
like
You have
I
a little
couldn't
more
do
free
all of that
time.
while
Yeah.
I was working and teaching full time.
And you know what? And you're in Bowling Green. I get that. But Black Swamp Players down there.
Yep. I've directed for them. I'm going to be doing another project with them in
Which
the
one?
summer.
What is it? Do you know?
Not Quite Gone.
Not Quite Gone.
It's the last show of the season.
It's the last
I'm
show.
directing.
Okay, they're doing Marjorie Prime coming up here.
Yeah,
So,
I can't wait to see
and
that.
then not if I'm not dying of some sort of sickness, I'd love to go see that Marjorie Prime.
It does look intriguing.
Yeah, I say Optimus Prime just be jerky, but I think it looks good.
yeah.
Though. It sounds good.
Oh,
though.
it's
yeah.
I love it. I love the script. I love the show.
And I haven't got to be I haven't been able to go down to see their new facility yet because they just got that last year.
You should go to that one.
Yeah. See,
I love how Black Swamp Players is. When I first moved back to Bowling Green and I started getting involved, Black Swamp Players was the old traditional.
Yeah.
The audiences were all these really old people who are used to very easygoing, lighthearted, fluffy stuff.
And then Heath showed up.
Well, and then the board changed over. We got this new building.
Yeah.
And
Heath and Bob Marzola, they've
and
put
so
a lot
they're
of energy into
changing. They're changing and choosing much more interesting. And I call it more diverse. We're not giving up on the fluff. And
They still do a lot of plays,
but
which
we're
is
doing
unique.
things like Marjorie Prime now instead of
Well, they did Curious Incident also.
Yeah.
So they're doing shows they're still play heavy, which is unique for the area.
As opposed to musicals.
Yeah, everybody does musicals.
Yeah.
And there's maybe 2-3 places that really do play.
There's a show that has music in it, Spitfire Grill. I wouldn't call it a musical. Yeah. And then
they have done a
they
holiday
doing
one. No, that's what I'm saying. They mostly do Spitfire Grill is like their musical that they did this year.
Yeah.
And the rest of them are all plays.
Well,
and generally that's what it is. Yep.
They know their audience and they know their pool of actors to pull
and they know
from.
their facility too.
True.
They're not going to be able to do the Music Man.
Can't do big shows, big musicals.
Exactly. Yeah, so they have to do a show that's going to fit in that facility, be lit in a certain way, do all the be mic'd a certain way. They know what they got, and they're doing a good job of picking what they got.
Yeah.
Actors Collaborative is another one that does a lot of good plays.
Yeah.
And they are the same way. They, Jeffrey Albright is like, he's really particular about the shows he wants to have, and he's like, I don't.
Have you interviewed him yet?
Oh,
He
yeah.
should be. Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
I was going to say he should be on this program.
Yeah, let me hook you up on your phone so I can show you how to have our podcast and go back to listen to all 90 some of our episodes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm like, what?
then you can go back
Instead
and
of
go,
relying on
yes,
my Alexa.
instead of saying, "Hey Alexa, can you find these guys?" and then she's like, "Nah, can't find that for you." I do. I want to hook you up though.
Okay.